Welcome to the FMCG guys, coming to you live from the Retail Media Summit here in London, brought to you by SMG and Path to Purchase Institute. I'm excited to join you today with my guest, Adam Aldridge from Kimberly Clark. Hi, Adam.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you enjoying the day so far?
Yeah, great. Honestly, some really great insights coming through. Really resonates with everything that's going on with the Kimberly Clark business.
Well, listen, before we jump into the topic du jour, retail media, of course, let's spend a little bit of time talking about you and just getting our audience familiar with your background and your current remit at Kimberly Clark. So why don't we start with just, if you could walk us through a little bit about your career and your experience to date.
So yeah, I've had quite a varied career, if I'm honest. So I actually started out as a graphic designer, kind of working on all of the stuff that I'm briefing agencies to do now, really, which was taking creative and putting it into retail spaces. But I actually weirdly sat within the category management team. And from that, I actually learned a lot about kind of data, analytics, insights, working, especially with shopper insight. That actually broadened that role out. I actually started to do a lot more with the fixture, for example, and how we brought our strategies to life at fixture. And then that naturally kind of evolved really into shopper marketing. So I've then held kind of a few shopper marketing roles, and now I'm retail performance lead, which is essentially a shopper marketing lead, but obviously with all the remit of kind of evaluation, etc., rolled into that as well.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, it's also something that we've been hearing consistently across a couple of our guests, which is this mix between shopper marketing and let's call it more of the media-oriented type roles. And I'm just curious to understand, can you give us a little bit of insight in regards to like your role? Because actually, is that a role that's been around at Kimberly Clark for quite some time, or are you the first to have that role?
Yeah, first to have that role. So yeah, I think, as a lot of suppliers have done recently, kind of looked at how we need to evolve our marketing structures or even commercial structures to actually make retail media work to its best. So yeah, we actually restructured at the start of last year. It's a relatively new role. I've got obviously a team obviously working on all of the accounts with our customers, so yeah.
Well, given that you've got this background both in more traditional shopper marketing and now on the retail media side, I'm curious to get your thoughts in regards to the impact that retail media has had in FMCG, given what you've seen. It's
been huge. I mean, it feels mad in the UK probably, only a few years ago or 4 years ago that we were with clean store policies. It was kind of, there was very limited what you could do as a brand, and what you could do was very governed by templates and essentially by our customers. It's just completely gone the other way. The opportunity and how we can link, our above the line presence with our below the line presence, but more importantly, the data that goes behind it. We've been hearing a lot about that today, but that's really integral to how we really kind of bring the two old ways of working, so to speak, together.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say that you touch on it when you mention data and all that it offers in terms of like, not just in terms of greater precision in terms of your activation, but I'm also curious to get your perspective, what it's meant for you all from a consumer understanding perspective as well, in terms of like getting a better knowledge of the behavior that your shoppers are demonstrating.
Yeah, I mean, we look at it in two lenses as well. I think, we can look at it as gaining relevant shoppers that we can reach in general, which is, kind of an old school method, I guess, of creating an audience. But we obviously go much more hyper targeted now, tapping into that first party data with our retailers. We can really start to understand that cross shop with different basket spends, work out what that shopper is going to buy and when they're going to buy it. One of our products is toilet rolls, so 98% penetrated category. I'm not sure what the other 2% do, but we won't talk about that.
We won't judge. We won't judge.
Exactly, but yeah, 98% of shoppers need toilet roll, right? So it's got a broad reach, but actually there's a real opportunity in there to tap into expanding into premium, for example. So yeah, using data is really helping us to kind of not only just reach shoppers, but actually target much harder as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I've never thought about that statistic, which is that you have 98% penetration. Yes. I mean, how many brands here today or anywhere would kill for that number? Yeah. And like, but you're right. It does present a different challenge, right? Which is like, you still have to think about what are you doing to grow the category, right? So, exactly. And you have to do it in a very different sort of way than just saying I'm going to recruit new buyers, because that's just the 2%.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're doing? But anyway, it's a different challenge for you all, for sure. And when you talk about cross shop, is that something that you all look at within the context of your portfolio of brands, or is it something you look at in terms of adjacencies with other categories as well?
No, definitely adjacencies. We've looked at our strategy as a brand more recently and completely redefined that. And one of the areas that we're really kind of pushing more into is that actually toilet tissue is, used on your skin. So it's actually, when you think about it, the world's #1 skincare brand, if you like, so we're reframing it. It's taking it away from commoditization and taking it more into something that shoppers will think about, engage more with, a bit like a health and beauty kind of category. So yeah, we're really kind of changing the way we think.
I like that. I like how you've almost in essence like repositioned the brand to think about it, like you said, as the world's most popular skin brand. And I'm curious to build on that. We've talked about data and obviously how critical it is. I'm curious if, like, for example, what you've mentioned around like the repositioning of the brand, are there other ways that you've seen retail media data in particular be able to help in terms of the business, right? And I guess I'm looking at it through the lens of not just on the activation side, but has it helped at all, for example, in terms of like building the collective knowledge for your brand teams, in terms of, like, for example, like you mentioned, thinking about the brand in a completely new sort of way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even from R&D perspective, kind of looking at that data and kind of understanding how other brands might cross shop with other brands and how shoppers actually react. I think that really helps you to start creating innovation platforms as well. So yeah, even from a marketing side on that front, it's really interesting how that data can help us.
And is there something that you think in particular that retail media data brings to the party that, because if you think about, going back to years ago, we've had panel data, we've got bespoke research that we do. Is there something in particular that retail media brings that we haven't had, or that you all haven't seen in your repertoire?
Yeah, I think obviously we've had EPOS data from store level for a long time, but this takes it a step further. I mean, we can really now start to identify, for example, when we're using media, are we using media in places that actually you're even going to get a chance of conversion? So I might talk about affluence here, for example. If you're in a less affluent area, shoppers might only be open to buying own label products, for example. So we can actually be more efficient as well from where we place our media in areas where we've got a better chance of conversion. So I think that's the element that's really coming through for me, that kind of gaining the insights from the retail media partners as well. So I'm talking about the dunnhumbies and the Nectar 360s, etc. They're really helping us to go the next step to actually really truly understand our shoppers.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, in some ways it kind of harkens back to the 5 W's analyses that we've all known and loved for years, right? But it's getting that greater level of precision in terms of like that, not just the who, but the where.
Yeah, exactly.
And possibly the when as well, right? In terms of like understanding, like, there are particular parts of the day or days of the week that
or
people
frequency. I mean, I think obviously through the COVID times, obviously best marketing program ever, which was Panic Buy. But you couldn't get a toilet roll anywhere in the UK. So obviously that changed shopper behaviours. Shoppers were actually buying into larger packs. They didn't want to run out. But it really put an emphasis, I think, on how important it is to people in their lives to actually have toilet roll. But it's making sure that you're adapting with that as you go through, looking at the data. Is it a common thing now? Are people only buying into bigger packs, or are they actually looking at reverting back to the way they used to shop and just buying more frequently on smaller packs? So there's definitely a way of us understanding as well when our shoppers more open to purchase.
Yeah. And I'm curious, and this is something that we've touched on with a couple of other guests as well, which has been the topic of customer collaboration, right? In terms of like, how has retail media or omnichannel activation, to put it more broadly, how has that evolved the way that you partner with key accounts or with some of your big retailers?
It was the Tesco Media Upfront last week, and we actually won an award for Best Customer Insights. So I think that just goes to show kind of how that sort of level of working more collaboratively with the dunnhumbies, but also with Tesco in this example, actually really kind of benefits you, kind of twofold, not only from your media effectiveness, but also from the collaboration that you're gaining through the customer, and really showing them that actually we're trying to drive shoppers through your door as well. It's it's not just about the brand, we're actually trying to help you. So that collaboration, and it's a bit of a mantra, I guess, but opportunity equals performance is what I say to the team. And what I mean by that is actually if you've really had those sort of collaborative chats with your customer, is that you open those opportunities up, which then drives the performance, because shoppers are going to find your product in the right places in store. So
yeah, well, and I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Which is it's all about it's a win-win, actually win-win-win if you include the consumer in there as well, which we should. So it's like, if you grow the category, obviously the retailer benefits, but obviously you as the category leader stand to gain, gain as well. And I wanted to ask you a little bit in terms of, we've talked obviously a lot about the benefits that something like retail media can offer. I'm curious to get your perspective in terms of any barriers or roadblocks that you've encountered in terms of either, driving internal buy-in around retail media, or even thinking then in terms of like actually putting that data to use.
Yeah, I think the internal structure piece is still an ongoing, and I've heard a lot again today from other speakers, but I think it's a challenge of traditional marketing, if you like, and making sure that the structure's right. So we've, as I say, kind of gone through a restructure of how we get all the teams working collaboratively together. And it's taking time, because I think there's always a factor of where you're taking my budget away to do this over here, and that used to be spent on TV, and but we're definitely on a really strong path there. But also I think, as I kind of alluded to there around the opportunity with collaboration with our customer, is that there's an element of trade marketing in there as well. So thinking about what do you need to do to actually drive your plan with the customer, and then overlaying what the brand plan is on top of that. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest frictions that I can think of, just in terms of the massive change that retail media has made to how you need to work with the rest of the business.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because having to strike that balance in regards to the commercial plan and the brand plan has always been there, right? But I think in essence, what retail media has done is almost kind of brought it to a head, if you will, because it's like we have to resolve this, right? Because and this, it's almost like in a way an enabler in terms of getting to the desired result.
Exactly.
Right. It's almost like seeing the opportunity as opposed to the challenge.
Yes.
In a way. I was curious, and I'm wondering if you're able to share any examples with us. I mean, it sounds like you've got one tailor-made based on the award you received last week. But are there any examples you can share with us in terms of retail media campaigns that you all have run and what it's delivered?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I can talk a little bit around the one that we got the award for, and this is a great example of the marketing team all coming together. That initially was more of an off-site kind of traditional above-the-line brief, looking at the broader audiences, but actually they started to look at that in a bit more detail about how can we be a little bit more hyper-targeted. Now, we had a product launch last year on a product called Mega Rolls, which actually, again, essentially it's just a bigger roll. I say only just, that's a poor way of talking about my MPD, but it's actually almost the way that the category was driving, based on the fact that people wanted more toilet tissue. So they were looking at that audience and looking at kind of, is there not only just your traditional way of working, which is lapse buyers and kind of new to brand, etc., but is actually, are there shoppers out there that are buying into big packs, and we can make sure that we're talking to them. So leaning on dunnhumby to do a lot of that work for us. We obviously created that and then made relevant creatives that worked for that, and this was then translated all the way through into store around what we were supporting, whether that be kind of bay takeovers, for example, or other media at store. So yeah, that's a good example, I think, of like how both sides of the business, so the traditional consumer engagement team and the retail performance team and digital performance team work together.
Yeah, I love it. It's through the line, right? So exactly. I think it's like anytime you can bring let's say the precision that something like retail media data can offer, and you combine it with brilliant creative, that's obviously a winning combination, and as it shows. So congratulations on the award. Adam, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. I have one final question before you get out of here, and this is a question that we ask all our guests. We ask you to go back in time, so if you could go into a time machine and talk to young Adam at the start of your career and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
I'd say broaden your horizons on, kind of where you get all of your career, lined up to. I think for me, obviously going through different areas of the business, going through graphic design, category management, insights, and then obviously into marketing has broadened my knowledge, that actually it gives you a much better understanding, I think, of how you can put it all together to make strategies work. So that would be my response to that one.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.